Alright, let's go through some examples and I'll show you how to complete the square. Now remember, this method only works when there's a leading coefficient of 1. So first thing you do is you take the c. Remember, you have ax squared plus bx plus c. You take the c to the other side, so we're going to add 27 to both sides. Let's try to write a little neater here. Alright, so you have x squared minus 6x, leave a space, and then equals, and now remember it'll be positive 27 when it goes to the other side. So you put c on the other side. Then you divide the b by 2, square that, and that answer gets added to both sides. So divide, alright, so first thing we do, let's write some steps here. First thing we do is put c on the other side. Put c on other side. Then you take half of b, you divide the b by 2, so you take b, you divide it by 2, and then that gets squared, and that answer right there, you add it to both sides. So then this gets added to both sides. Alright, so we take half of b. So in this problem, half of b, half of negative 6 is negative 3. Square that. Negative 3 times negative 3 is positive 9. And that gets added to both sides. So you have x squared minus 6x, and you add that 9 to both sides of the equation. So how did I get 9? I took half of negative 6. Half of negative 6 is negative 3. Square that. Negative 3 times negative 3 is 9. That's what you add to both sides. Next step, you're going to factor. And this should always turn into a trinomial square. Alright, so they're pretty simple to factor. What two numbers multiply to 9 and add up to negative 6? They have to multiply to give you 9 and add up to negative 6. You could do the x trick if you want. You could make the x. Multiply to 9, add up to negative 6. That has to be negative 3 and negative 3. Right? So you'll have x minus 3 and x minus 3. And then on the other side, 27 plus 9 is 36. Okay, but you're not going to write x minus 3 twice. You're going to write x minus 3 quantity squared equals 36. Now I can use what I just learned yesterday. Now I can take the square root of both sides. So now you take the square roots of both sides. Okay? That's what you just learned yesterday. Alright, the square root of x minus 3 quantity squared is just x minus 3. And the square root of 36 is plus or minus 6. Remember, it could be positive or negative. And then your last step is you solve to get your, usually it's 2 solutions. It could be 1 or none, but usually it's 2. So now you solve. So basically this right here is 2 problems. It's x minus 3 equals positive 6, and it's x minus 3 equals negative 6. So in the first case, in this first one, you'd add 3 to both sides, right? You'd add 3, you'd get x equals 9. And in this one down here, you'd also add 3 to both sides, and you'd get x equals negative 3. So your 2 solutions are 9 and negative 3. Alright, let's try another one. Now remember, if I go too fast, you can pause this video, and you can rewind it, or you could rewatch it later. All right, I think I'm gonna, let's put these are the steps. Okay, so those are the steps that you need to follow. All right, let's try this next example. All right, remember it only works with a leading coefficient of 1. And we want to take C and put it on the other side. So we're going to subtract 3. So I'll have x squared plus 12x, leave a space, and then when you subtract 3 from both sides, you'd get negative 2. Okay, now you take half of b and square it. So half of 12 is 6. 6 times 6 is 36. And the 36 gets added to both sides of the equation. You have to keep it balanced. So I took half of 12. Well, first of all, I moved the c to the other side. I took half of 12 and then squared that, and that's what I added to both sides. Now I'm going to factor this trinomial, but it's really simple. What multiplies to 36 and adds up to 12? The only thing that multiplies to 36 and adds to 12 is 6. 6 times 6 and 6 plus 6. So it's x plus 6 quantity squared equals 34 over here. Okay, now it's what you learned yesterday. Take the square root of both sides. On the left side, you'll get x plus 6. On the right side, let's see, square root of 34. It's not a perfect square, so you could grab your calculator and type in to find out the square root of 34 is plus or minus 5.83. So now this is two problems, right? This is two problems. X plus 6 equals positive 5.83 and x plus 6 equals negative. So I will do those over here. So this turns into x plus 6 equals positive 5.83. And it also turns into x plus 6 equals negative 5.83. To solve this one, I would subtract 6 from both sides. Subtracting 6 from both sides, let's see here, if I subtract 6, I would get negative 0.17. And on the second one, if I subtract 6 from both sides, subtracting 6 from both sides, I will get negative 11.83. So these are kind of weird answers. Actually, they're called solutions, because this original problem could not be factored. So this would be one you couldn't factor, but it still has x-intercepts, but they're just at decimal locations, not whole numbers, not integers. All right, we'll try one more. Last one. And again, feel free to rewind and rewatch if I went too fast. Okay, now this one does not have a leading coefficient of 1, but I could divide every term by 2. Right? I could divide every single term by 2, which is perfectly legal. That'll keep it balanced. And then that'll give me x squared plus 2x plus 5 equals, let's see, what's 58 divided by 2? 29. All right, I need the c on the other side. I can't have that 5. So I have to move the c to the other side, so I have to subtract 5. That will leave me with x squared plus 2x. Remember, leave a space. And 29 minus 5 is 24. Now take half of b. Half of 2 is 1. Square that. 1 times 1 is 1. And that's what you're going to add to both sides. So I took the 5 to the other side by subtraction, took half of this and squared it. That's what gets added. Now this is a trinomial square. This is an easy to factor trinomial. What multiplied together gives you 1 and at the same time adds up to 2? Well, it's got to be 1 times 1, right? It has to be. 1 times 1 is 1, and 1 plus 1 is 2. Remember, you can always go over and make the x. What multiplies to 1 and adds to 2? It has to be 1 and 1. So that means you'd have x plus 1 and x plus 1. And here you'd have 25, but we're not going to write x plus 1 times x plus 1. We're going to write x plus 1's quantity squared equals 25. Okay, we can use the square root method on this part. Take the square root of both sides. You'll get x plus 1 equals plus or minus. Don't forget the plus or minus when you take the square root. Plus or minus 5. Okay, there's 2 problems. X plus 1 equals positive 5, or x plus 1 equals negative 5. In the top one, I would subtract 1 from both sides. My solution would be x equals 4. And in the second one, I would also subtract 1 from both sides, and I would get x equals negative 6. So again, I get 2 solutions. Remember, sometimes you get 2 solutions, or 1 solution, or none. All right, I hope this was helpful. Good luck with your homework.